What were your memories of headlining Bloodstock back in '07?
I remember it was almost a challenge when we got to play the first time, because it was something like we were playing to make the festival growing, they were starting to get relatively bigger names for what it was.
Prime Audio Radio, delighted today to be speaking with Andrea from LACUNA COIL. Dude, how you doing?
Hello. I'm great. I'm very busy playing shows and organizing things for end of the year and beginning of the new year. So it's busy days, but in a good way.
Yeah, you just said that as we were getting ready for the chat today that you're in the midst of festival season. You just played a festival in Croatia, which sounds amazing. Now, I've been to Croatia a few times, a Split and Dubrovnik, and a few places a little bit more. England, at Zagreb, the capital. Wonderful country, but in my mind, perhaps like the musical scene there for me was a much more dance orientated. So tell me a little bit about the metal scene in Croatia, because I must admit I didn't see too much metal when I've been in Croatia.
Actually, I think it's quite alive. Actually, the guitar scene, like bands with guitar, because we've done some festivals, and then we've done a couple of shows with Gojira as direct support of Gojira. We've done Athens 2 weeks ago. And we done Zagreb with them this week, and then it was a sold out show. It was about 5,000 people. So I mean, it's not a huge country, obviously, but Zagreb was pretty nice. And I spoke with the promoter. They told me they had the week before us. They had Queens of the Stone Age, and the week before they had Skunk Anansi. So there's quite there is an audience definitely for. It's true. I mean, they also have a huge dance scene for sure, electronic music scene, but it's also rock is also pretty solid there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting you talk about how like rock is growing. I saw a story today that in America, and I think parts of Europe as well, rock and metal is selling more now in arenas than a lot of pop acts, which kind of took me back a little bit that's the case in the bigger venues now.
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes the problem is that you have so many concerts at the same time in the same city that sometimes it's not possible for all the band to make a sold out, or so sometimes it's a bit overcrowded. But definitely, I spoke to our agent here in Italy recently, and he told me they're selling more tickets than ever. Like they never sold so many concert tickets for every genre, not only rock and metal, but also rock and metal. Here in Milan, we had Linkin Park playing a show in the horse race track, and they had 80,000 people sold out.
Amazing.
I mean, a lot of people.
Did you get to go to it by chance?
No, we were playing somewhere else as usual. I went to see the same festival. I went to see Duran Duran.
Oh, cool.
Which is slightly less rock if you want to, but I always liked them. I never had the chance to see them. So I was home for that day. So I said, I'm going to go and I see them. And it was actually an amazing show. But I never seen Linkin Park, neither with Chester or with the new lineup. I met Chester actually in England. We were at I believe it was the Kerrang Awards in London a few years ago. And then Chester came to our table and introduced himself and say hello. And he was with his wife, and we got to meet him and to briefly chat with him a little bit. And then I remember we were on tour in America with POD, and he was friends with them because they supported Linkin Park on Arena's tour in America. And so Chester sent out some of his tattoo guys because he had a chain of tattoo shop in America. And so he sent out some of the tattoo guys that were tattooing us for free. Just tip the tattoo guy and say it, so it was very kind and very pleasant to meet, but I never got to see them live.
He's such a missed soul, Chester. It's funny you mentioned about meeting him at the Kerrang Awards, because that's where I also met him. It was the only time that I met him, but I was doing red carpet interviews. We probably met doing those red carpet. You never know. They're so fast. It was the Sonosphere year that I met him when he played with his band Dead by Sunrise.
I remember there were the guys from Prodigy, and
yes,
Keith was still alive because I got
that's
to meet
right.
him as well, and
I think Corey from Slipknot was there as well. It was
it was a
with
good funny dress, like it was some weird as usual.
We definitely would have met that night. That's crazy. But yeah, that was the only time I met Chester. But from my brief interaction with him, a much missed soul. But I haven't seen the new lineup of Linkin Park yet. But by all accounts, it looks amazing. And I was so impressed that they sold out like 90,000 people for Wembley Stadium here in the UK. It was very ambitious. So yeah, very cool.
If you think about it, 80,000 in Italy, it's even more amazing because the UK is a big rock market. I mean, you guys invented the genre basically together with American, huh? But in Italy, I mean, we do have a lot of people for bands like AC/DC or Metallica, but for a relatively modern band like Linkin Park, it was a big number. It was one of the biggest sold outs. Only I think Travis Scott did the same. The same amount of people.
Right. Yeah,
and he's huge,
incredible. Yeah, it just goes to show you how strong rock and metal music
definitely.
is today.
We're getting a lot of offer for tours and festival, even for next year already. We already booked for the beginning of the spring of next year. So it's definitely happening. I mean, there's a lot of shows for sure.
So you're due to be in the UK in a couple of weeks' time as you're going to be returning to Bloodstock Festival.
Yeah.
Now, you actually headlined the festival back in 2007. The festival was a little bit different back then. It was only just getting into its outdoor phase. But what were your memories of headlining Bloodstock back in 07?
I think it was a very primitive version of Bloodstock, what it is today, the giant festival is today, because I remember there was a very tiny catering area with a very few items available, and it looked like a countryside fest, one of those summer fests, or beer fest or something like that. And then we came back a few years later, and it was completely different, like super well organized and with a lot of stages. And so I remember it was almost a challenge when we got to play the first time, because it was something like we were playing to make the festival growing, they were starting to get relatively bigger names for what it was, and then just a few years later, it was already blowing up and becoming a much bigger festival. So it was definitely a great time. And we did the same with the Bloodstock, also with the festival in Germany called Summer Breeze. It was also one of the very first edition that were doing it. And we kind of also helped bring in some bigger bands for the time, and so it's always great, I think, especially because, it's cool that you're able to push someone else, and then they can help you later when you maybe need a little bit more of push, and they can invite you to the festival when it's a bigger thing and put you in a nice spot. So I think it's great the metal scene has always been about the community, not just the band or not just the event. If you go to places like Wacken or Download, you see so many people there, not only for the bands, it's also for the happening. It's also for the staying there together, all the collateral activities they have. So it's cool that the community get together and build it as big as it is now. And so we're very happy to finally be able to come back.
Is it nice to watch festivals like Bloodstock grow over time as you play them in their primitive, and then you come back a few years later, it's even bigger, and then you'll be back this year and it's even bigger? Because I've done some event organizing myself, and I think it's quite well known now that festivals are notoriously high risk. A lot of them just don't make it.
Yeah, and also because they stick to the metal formula more than other festivals. They do have a little bit of variation on the team, but definitely it's not as open as Download, for example, where you can have a punk band or a Prodigy or a Chemical Brothers. More spacing out in different collateral, let's say, genres. So it's very important also to have these more core festivals like Wacken is or Bloodstock or many others that are more preserving the genre. It's cool to have both. I think we like to play crossing over with different bands, but also stay with the community a little bit more. So I think both things help the genre to be strong, to stay strong, because I think you need both aspects. You need the core to always be there. Especially metal is a genre that sometimes is a bit more mainstream, sometimes a bit more underground, never completely mainstream, but still very consistent, very slowly growing, always being there. We play many venues that we're still playing nowadays, and they're still there, and they still do mostly metal shows. So it's great to have this kind of stability for the genre. Then sometimes it's also cool to be able to branch out to something bigger, something different. And I think every band needs that moment where they are a bit more mainstream. You have the bands like Bring Me the Horizon, bringing the genre towards more of the young blood, or towards more of the alternative, and then bringing back the metal as well. So it's important for the genre to not be stale, and have both the more conservative, let's say, hardcore fans, but also the more trying to get newer people to the genre.
Yeah, I get that. And last week I was talking with Corey from Trivium, and so you're playing just under Emperor and then Trivium headlining, and Corey was saying that it's great to headline, but there's a certain responsibility and pressure that comes with it, because when it's your name top of the bill, you got to bring the pyro, you got to bring all of that, and I'm kind of looking at your slot and thinking, I think your slot might be the perfect festival slot, because, not too high, not too low, sort of, it's probably, evenings coming in. Is that sort of slot that you're at, like the perfect festival slot, about 45 minutes, a greatest hits set, and you get to play your set and, get off stage and enjoy the evening?
Yeah, definitely. It's a good spot. And we were going to bring some production as well, not pyros, but some other stuff. Obviously we don't have a lot of time to set up because we're not headlining, so we need to, we don't have enough space and enough time to do very complicated things, but we have designed something special just for Bloodstock that we're gonna try to make it even more fun for the people. And so it's a good spot. The only thing is the light, because obviously when you can use fully all the great light that they have at festival, it looks better, of course, So the only downside of playing a little bit earlier, it's that you're gonna play, I'm not gonna say under the sun, but in between, the dusk and more of a daytime. But still, beside that, it's definitely great to don't have to play too much of a long set, because not everybody know you, or maybe they know the name of the band, but not everybody's familiar with the songs, with the music, with the changes you had in your career, in directions and stuff. And so it's good to have a slot that is not too long, and you can portray the best you have and try to get the people energy going with you. And that's the most important and beautiful thing about the festival, is the interaction with the people. Now, because sometimes club shows they look better. You can be more meticulous on the sound, on the clothes, on everything. You have more time to prepare everything right. While festival, it's all about the energy exchange with the people, the fact that you have that slot of time and you have to get them going in a very short amount of time. So they're both fun, they're different situations, but both fun in their own way.
Yeah. So I was listening to your latest album, Sleepless Empire, earlier today, and we had Christina on the station as the album was coming out, talked very in depth about the album. It was a fantastic run of shows. But on the album, there's a track that sort of I really connected with, and that was Sleep Paralysis. And so I actually go through sleep paralysis maybe once or twice a month. And I was wondering, is this a song that you penned? Is that something that you go through?
Sleep paralysis, I didn't personally experience that, but I know that Christina did, and that's where we got the idea of talking about it. Obviously, the way we portrayed it in the lyrics is not exactly, it kind of described the moment, but it's also meant also more into a wider meaning for the society we're living in, where people seems kind of always absorbed in their own thing, always looking at the phone, always on their social media, always in this bubble that sometimes take us away from reality, and that's so we made a sort of a comparison between the real sleep paralysis and the feelings of when you get it with the way the society is going nowadays, and I think it worked pretty well. Also, it's a kind of a more atmospherical songs with some particular notes from Christina in the singing and in the chorus, especially. So we enjoy building that song more like a story, not like a single, not like something that needs to have a catchy chorus or something. That's more about the development of the song, and I think a lot of people wrote us about the fact that they experienced it or they experienced something similar to that. So it's not as uncommon as you might think. I think it's something that happened to a lot of people, and it is definitely a weird sensation for sure, and definitely awkward moment in your life for sure.
And it's a good analogy in terms of when you look at the world and you sort of despair at what's happening. Because my own experience of sleep paralysis, the worst moment is when you're conscious. So if for anyone who's not experienced sleep paralysis, essentially you wake up, but you're unable to move, but you're very aware that you're awake and you just cannot move at all, and it's just horrifying because you feel like you're just totally stuck. And then there's like you get the scary thought of like, what if the pillow slips on my mouth and I can't breathe anymore? And then like, you just, and then eventually paranoid. You snap out of it. But that's what but it's like doom scrolling. That's what doom scrolling can be sometimes. You see all these things it was in the world and you just don't know what to do about it.
It was a very fascinating concept. We did kind of something similar when we wrote the album Delirium, and we imagined the album like a sanatorium where all the rooms have different patients with different kind of illnesses. And the idea started because some of us experienced in our own family people with mental problems. And so we started a research on the different characteristics, and we took some description to use in the lyrics. But we always do that. We start from a real story, real experience, personal experience, and then we try to translate it in a way that everybody can sort of relate it for their own experience. And I think when you experience something real like that, it's more, people realize it, it's more, when you try to make up a story, it never worked for us. Like when we try to tell a story that we never really start from a real experience, it never worked for us. It was always, we were getting lost in the lyrics and couldn't find a real sense, Once you start from a real story, it's so much easier to have the lyrics flowing, the words coming up to you, and it's almost right itself,
Yeah. And your cover of Enjoy the Silence is still one of my favorite metal covers today, just without the whole genre. I go back to it regularly, but I was wondering if there's any other covers that maybe you think you wouldn't mind tackling. You mentioned that you went see Duran a little while back, and I'm wondering if you got any other any other bands.
We consider one.
Outside.
We consider one Duran. We never actually approach it, but we consider. I think it was Ordinary World, the song Ordinary World. Ordinary World, and but we never practice it. We never really. It was just an idea but we have in the works 3 or 4 cover versions, and I don't know if we're gonna record all of them or some of them. I don't know what use we're gonna have for those, but we have them. The music is almost ready, and we have to work the vocals a little bit. And in the future, I think we're gonna put them out somehow as bonus or some special project. We don't know what use we're gonna have, but Marco's been working some songs are from the 80s more or less, not metal. It's more like the Depeche Mode song. There's more coming from we don't really find it easy to and useful to cover a metal song because it's already metal, so we can't make it more metal. So for us it's more interesting to take a song like Losing My Religion or Enjoy the Silence, Ordinary World, something that is not strictly coming from a rock environment, and turn it into a rock version. It's just more challenging and more interesting for us than just do a cover of Metallica. Would not make sense, because it's not, how more metal can you make it, I mean, maybe if you can do a death metal version, that it might work, but it's not interesting for us. And we find more interest in covering something cool, but from a little different angle.
Yeah. And sadly, in the last week or so, we tragically lost Ozzy Osbourne, and I was just wondering, what Ozzy and Black Sabbath, meant to you.
Yeah, Black Sabbath. Obviously, we grew up with their music and being huge Type O Negative fans. I mean, Type O Negative was the kind of a reincarnation of the Black Sabbath sound, for us. And it was more the way we discovered that sound. And then we went back to Black Sabbath because of Type O Negative, It's always like that, you grow up and you listen to something, then you get where the original the original inspiration came from. So we became also big Black Sabbath fans. But the fact that we got to do 2 Ozzfest in America in 2004 and 2006, and we got to meet Ozzy and Sharon. We've been picked up by Kelly and Jack. The very first time we were on Ozzfest in 2004 for the second stage. For us, we always consider Ozzy like our godfather, you know, even if we don't know him really well, you know, we just met him briefly. But still for us, it was always an important figure. It was like our older uncle, you know, because not only because of the musical inspiration, but also because we felt he gave us a special occasion to shine and to break into the North American market. And for a band from Italy, it's not very easy or not very common to happen. So for us, Ozzy was always that almost father figure of like, we owe him something, you know, because he's been very kind, and Sharon's always been kind to us. And we've been upgraded to the main stage in 2006. So it really made a difference for us. And when we did it in 2004, it was actually Black Sabbath headlining on the original lineup. And we were hanging out with them also on catering, and we became really good friends with Bill Ward, a drummer. And because he had a radio program on college radio in California. And
I believe he still has that radio show, by the way.
Yeah, and he was playing our tunes on the program. So he always told us, hey, I play you guys all the time in my show. And so once we got the endorsement from Pearl Drums during Ozzfest, so he came to our trailer of the tour bus and built up the kit with our drummer and try the skins and try the position together. And that was a surreal moment, you know, seeing Bill Ward right there with you, trying the drum kit, talking drums, you know, coming to eat with us at catering. That was a unique experience. And then when we did it in 2006, Ozzy was headlining with his personal band, you know, so we got to see both sets every night for the entire summer. and so for us, Ozzy is definitely a special figure. So it was very sad obviously for what happened, but it was also great I watched the show streaming the Back to the Beginning show, and it was great to see that he was there for one more time for his fans, doing charity stuff with all those great bands, friends, because we know most of these guys because we tour with a lot of those bands and people. And to see that, it was relieving, because at least he had to do that before he knew probably that he didn't have a lot of time in front of him. And so it was kind of both sad and bittersweet, you know, because I was happy for him to be able to do it. But on the other hand, you knew that it was going to be sort of a real ending, you know. And so it was sad news, but on the other hand, I am glad he did have the chance to do that. Actually, when we're coming to Bloodstock, we're landing in Birmingham. I'm not sure we're going to have time. I would like to go to the bridge and bring some flowers. The bridge. I know it's already probably overflown with stuff.
I think flowers. It is overflowing now, but I would say that there could never be enough.
And I have also a little Ozzy story. When I was on tour, Ozzy played here in Milan with Korn supporting. And my wife, she's a big Korn fan as well. And she went to the meet and greet with Ozzy. And she brought my laminates from Ozzfest. And she gave it to Ozzy. Can you sign this for me? And he saw it and said, how do you have an Ozzfest laminate? You know, and she explained, my husband, he played in LACUNA COIL and they play with you on Ozzfest. Oh, I know, I'm going to say hello to the guys. And she hugged her. So she has a photo with Ozzy hugging her, smiling. It's a super nice photo. I don't even have that photo actually with Ozzy. She has the photo with, I don't have it. but it's great, you know. So I got my laminates now signed by Ozzy. So I would cherish it forever.
It seems like he had a genuine interest and care for lifting bands up. I'm not sure that's the Trivium guys spoke about Ozzfest, and every band I speak to has a story of getting their first chance and first break because of Ozzy. And not every band, not all of the big bands do that, but Ozzy did. Like, he really, really took an active interest in the scene in the way that not every band sort of does. I think that's become a big part of his legacy.
Yeah, I think Ozzfest really helped build that big legacy with all the bands, and it was an opportunity for many bands that then they became huge. You know, even Disturbed, for example, they started from a small stage and then they got upgraded and they become the huge band in America. When we did it, there was like System of a Down, Disturbed, Avenged Sevenfold. We're just getting up there, you know, becoming bigger and bigger. Dragon Force was with us as well. So there was, and it was really summer camp for band Ozzfest. You know, it was all summer, hanging out, barbecuing, you were staying there, especially when you play second stage, was just, not big backstage. So you stay mostly on the bus and you see bands like lifting weights or playing poker it was really summer camp for bands. So I think all the bands that I played Ozzfest has huge, great memories, and you got treated really well and the crew was awesome, very professional. And it was a special moment, I think.
I heard, I think Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins in an interview recently was just kind of floating the idea of maybe continuing Ozzfest as like a tribute to Ozzy, but also as a way to keep that spirit of bringing up bands alive. And I thought that was actually quite an interesting idea.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot of work because obviously put together the lineup, getting to tour, the logistic is crazy. So you need sponsor, we've done different ththings like that and it's never easy, but usually the only place we're still going with something like that is usually Australia. Like last year, 2 years ago, we've done a thing called Good Things Festival, and it was a mix of metal and punk and hardcore. So you have Bring Me the Horizon as well as Deftones, NoFX, Ginger, us, Sabaton, like very mixed lineup between punk and metal. And they tour around Australia, but that it's easier because you only have 3-4 shows and then it's done, While Ozzfest was like 30 shows or something like that. So you have to move all these huge circus all around America. It definitely takes a lot of logistics, a lot of money, a lot of costs. So it's not easy to put it together again. But
no,
it'd be awesome. We would
Who knows?
up for it. I'll do it tomorrow if I can.
Dude, it has been an absolute pleasure to speak with you today, and very much looking forward to seeing your set at Bloodstock Festival. Before I let you go, I just want to say I absolutely adore your country. I've been to Italy quite a few times. Went to Lake Como with my fiance a few years back. Loved it there. Venice, Florence, been to Pompeii, Mount Vesuvius, and Rome. I've been to like the main attractions, but give me a recommendation for something off the beaten track, something that I could only find out from someone like yourself.
I think some cities in the south are a bit underestimated because obviously you see first the biggest attraction, like you said. Mm-hmm. But I think Palermo in Sicily, it's a very nice city with a lot of history. Especially you have to think that the south of Italy has been conquered by many different populations. Like we had the Greek in the very ancient times. And some of the best Greek temples are preserved in Sicily, for example, because in the city of Agrigento, there's the Valley of Temples, and you have like the Hercules Temple, and they are really well preserved because they never had earthquakes or the war, so they've been untouched for many years. So you see a lot of great sites for archaeology. And the city of Palermo has a lot of different religions. It's been under the Muslim domination for a while, and then it became back to Christian religion, and they got the Jews as well. So there's like a chapel which has symbol of the three religions inside the same chapel with all the different, and they never erased any of the previous religions. So you can see this amazing architecture with all different styles together in the same church. So it's definitely Sicily is a pretty cool place, but not only for the seaside, but also a lot of history to see and great food, but also all the area around Rome, north of Rome. There's a lot of small town, medieval towns, which are amazing. Perugia, also Assisi. There's a lot of smaller places, but with so many great history from very ancient population as well as more Romance period. There's a lot, to be honest. I do myself a lot of traveling in Italy because I haven't seen a lot of it. Like last summer, I've done coast to coast Calabria, which is the final part of the boot right in front of Sicily, to the other coast, which is Puglia. So I went and I did the driving through, and I went stop in various cities. There's the ancient city of Matera, which is completely dig in the rocks, and it's the third most ancient city in human history. So it's been built like many, many thousands years ago, and it's still really well preserved. You can still go in the caves where people used to live. So there's a lot. I mean, Italy, it's really lucky because of the geographical position in the Mediterranean Sea. So many different population came, conquered, then destroyed and rebuilt. And so there's so many different traditions because of the geographical position. You know, we always been contaminated. So you have the Alps, you have the islands, you have the hills in the middle, and there's a lot of coast as well. So it's a lot to see, to be fair. And I haven't seen it all myself.
Yeah, I love history, and particularly ancient history. Yeah. And I feel like someone should do a metal album on Emperor Nero. Like, I've just been diving into him a little bit. Yeah, the amount of crap that he went through by age 16. Yeah. No wonder he was a total menace. I feel like there's a metal album there in the waiting on him.
Yeah, there was a band called Astaroth from Rome in the 80s. That the guy, they moved to America, and one guy became they disbanded, and one guy, they became a producer and started to live in Los Angeles. But they were dressing like centurion, like Roman warriors, basically.
Right.
With the origin. They're from Rome, and they were dressing like that. I'm not sure about the lyrics, if they were also using lyrics taken from the history of ancient Rome. But maybe. And
I'll have to.
But it's a very underground thing, you know, from the 80s, and there was no internet, nothing. So they didn't become a huge band. They toured America a little bit, but never a very underground level. You know.
That's cool. I'm definitely going to have to check that out, though. Andrea, thank you so much for having a chat today, and looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at Bloodstock Festival.
See you soon. Ciao, ciao.
For more from Prime Audio Radio, simply hit the subscribe button or listen to our radio station 24/7 at primeaudioradio.com.
Prime Audio Radio.